worked most of my adult life in the what would we call it, the publishing industry? Not really publishing per se. It's more like just copywriting. I've worked as an editor, as a copywriter, as a journalist, and before that, I was reading quite a bit, as I think a lot of you do, and I found that, whether because of such frequent proximity to letters and words, or just because my brain is weird like that, I have strong feelings about how the different letters behave and interact with each other. And one night I just sat down and tried to see if I could put all of this into words. So that's what this is. I'm going to run through every letter of the alphabet and how I perceive it. And if that puts you to sleep, that's awesome for me. I will try to make this as soothing as I can. So, here we go. A through Z. A is a little full of itself. It comes first in the alphabet, so it thinks it's hot shit. It is airy, razor sharp, but it does do its job. B is friendly. B comes after A, but is older somehow. A big brother, bubbly, boisterous, big-hearted. C is cutting. C's biggest problem is that it's not A, but when paired with the right letters, it settles down. C has an issue with D for some reason. I'm not sure what's going on there. Might be body dysmorphia. D, you would think, would be soft, like B, but it's more deceptive. D has an agenda, and it may be deleterious to its alphabetical neighbors. It does, however, have a crush on E. E is good, a little mischievous, and will often be found in places it's not meant to be. It will fool you, but it won't hurt you. I can't say the same for C and D, and certainly not F. F is ferocious. F is not to be trifled with. F is a complicated letter in both upper and lowercase forms, and its multiple points are symbolic of its multifaceted character. Almost all of those facets are fiendish, I've found. G is even older than B, if you can believe it. Slow and gregarious. But none of the villainous letters will touch it. Maybe it's because he's too big, immovable, like a gargantuan boulder, or a grouper floating in a sea of grammar. The only knock I have against G is that he's a little smug in his lowercase form. But he has every right to. Of all the letters, his printed version still gets to be fancy, and it's his one true vanity. H is just livid that it's not G. H is hale and hearty, but it just can't get over it. G either knows and doesn't care, or is completely oblivious to H's jealousy, and that, too, is a source of H's hate. I is unique in this lineup of letters because its capital and lowercase versions are very different. Capital I is barely sentient and has no real opinion, no likes or dislikes. It stands like a monument, barely breathing. Lowercase I, meanwhile, is plucky and kind-hearted and comedic, but never so silly that it makes a nuisance of itself or harms others. Sometimes the tittle has its own separate identity, and sometimes it's a package deal. I is delightful and innocent. J is a joker. J is not taking any of this too seriously, and it finds those that do laughable. Contrary to what you might think, J is not jolly. J is a jester, and not always a kind one. K is hard-edged, but not sinisterly so. K likes things its own way. K can go along to get along, but it is happiest when it can do what it wants. K has a small chip on its shoulder because it's not C, but obviously it keeps that close to the vest. L is elegant. L would like to appear to be above it all, but it is truly not. L listens and has thoughts. M is overbearing, mothering, but not motherly. M believes it is somehow the manager of other letters, like N and W and L and Q. M sees itself as the boss, the leader of the latter alphabet. It's not jealousy for A that motivates this feeling. It's that M truly believes that it is superior, that it is the top of the middle of the heap. N is resentful of M, of course, and believes it would do better independently. N and K are very similar, in that they feel their needs are too often put aside for the sake of other letters. But N does show flashes of nobility. There is something pleasingly solid about N, despite its flaws. O, on the surface, would appear to be more like the B's and G's of the world, round and soft and passive. But O is more aware of its importance. It doesn't overstep. It isn't ostentatious. But O knows that much flows through its unbroken ring. P. P is diligent. Not precise. Not perfect. P is metallic. Finely crafted. Cold, but cold in the way of a well-made tool, hanging from a blacksmith's belt. P is prideful. P is pushy. But P understands a good many things, including its place in the larger alphabet. Q is an oddball, of course. P and Q are friends, but Q is more of a friend to P than maybe it wants or frankly deserves. But Q is everybody's friend, really. Even L and Q have an understanding. But no one is better friends than Q and U, who are perhaps the only two letters that are in perfect harmony about their relationship. Q and U like hanging out, not because they need each other, but because they genuinely enjoy working together. They're very different, and perhaps that's why it works. Not a marriage, but a business partnership. Much can be said about Q that I won't go into here, such as it coming from elsewhere. That's why its lowercase letter looks so much like other letters, like D and P and G. It's copying them to blend in. It's not from the neighborhood. R. I can just say this letter and you know how it is. R. R is sardonic. Is R better than the others? No. Does R have an attitude? Yes. But it can roll, and we can't pretend that's not cool. S, like I, has a distinction between its upper and lower cases. Capital S is strong and stately, not overly serious per se, but it's not cracking jokes. Lowercase s is a bit of a scamp, sometimes sinister, and sometimes merely sly. Lowercase s will hatch schemes, and it will draw any letters it can into its snare to do so. T is not the brightest letter. T is easily tricked, but not because it's overly trusting. T is like a large animal that can be led or waylaid by obstacles or enticements. U and V have an interesting relationship because they're counterparts, alternate versions of a similar idea. U is softer, but not all the way soft. U is utilitarian, capable of fulfilling a number of roles in the alphabet, malleable and self-conscious. Not good, not bad, but orange. V, however, is as pointed as its vertex. V is violet, verging on pink, serrated, but not violent. V tries to involve W in its capers, and though said capers are seldom successful, V insists on treating W as its henchman. W is kind of dumb. If T is like an animal, W is that guy in the group who is constantly laughing, and you're not sure why. And if questioned, W probably doesn't know why either. But W is fine. W is going to be fine. M is resentful of W for its shape, being an M upside down. And make no mistake, that is what's going on. No one ever thinks M is an upside down W. X is almost radioactive. There is an aura around X, like hot vapor that will scald you if you get too close. X and Z are alike. They have something in common. Both have hard edges and exist at the very tail of the alphabet, on the fringes. X has no real relationship to the other letters, apart from Z, and is enigmatic. Y has much in common with D and F and R. It does not think it should be at the very end of the alphabet, but its high opinion of itself isn't misplaced. Y is crafty. Y appears in many places you don't expect. Y is roguish, charismatic, untrustworthy, mercenary, and patient. But it does live between X and Z, two letters it has little in common with, and no chance of suborning. Z is tricky. Z goes through phases, like the moon. Sometimes it is innocuous and almost inert. Sometimes it is avaricious and grasping. But when it goes across the pond, Z wears a pork pie hat and goes by Zed. I find that curious and delightful. And that's all I have to say about that.